Hi, everyone. Hopefully, you've had a great time at Octane so far. I joined Okta 2 years ago because after having built numerous technology products over the last 17 years across both consumer and enterprise, it became clear to me that identity is foundational for every technology to deliver any kind of compelling value for users. It also became clear that building a secure, flexible, future-proofed identity solution for even one technology or use case is very hard and time-consuming. And it's even harder to build an identity solution that supports multiple technologies and multiple use cases, all of which need to be strung together to deliver a consistent user experience, whether it's for your employees or your customers. Throughout Octane, we've talked a lot about how we built a platform that can be that secure and flexible identity foundation for your organization. We've also talked about how we are doubling down on enhancing our developer experience across the platform to enable people to build more and more identity experiences using Okta. And as you've heard from our customers across breakout sessions and the documentary, that focus on customization and extensibility is already being felt. Finally, with the new announcements we made on day 2, we also highlighted how we are further deepening our developer capabilities and extending our platform into new capabilities like privileged access management and identity governance and administration. But even with all of this, we've only scratched the surface of what Okta can do. What I want to do now is actually lay out what our 5-year vision for identity is. A vision where identity is ubiquitous across all our experiences. A vision where all of you can transform your everyday lives and the lives of your customers and employees, securely powered by the Okta Identity Platform. To do this, let's go on a journey together. Let's meet Alice. Alice is in her mid-30s and married with a couple of kids. She has a smartphone and some internet-connected devices. But she's not a technophile or an early adopter. Tech needs to be intuitive and clearly impact her daily life for her to use it. Alice is also a diabetic, relying on a connected glucometer to help her manage her disease. And like so many of us, she's committed to getting in better shape this year, buying a Peloton for her workouts. It's already shaping up to be a big year for Alice. She just started a new job at Acmeco. A new gig means new benefits, and that means tying her new health plan to her existing identity records. To do this, Alice goes to her Okta Identity Wallet. Let's dive deeper into what an Okta Identity Wallet is and what it allows Alice to do. Today, most wallets are payment wallets. They let you store your payment types, like credit cards and purchase receipts. But the Okta Identity Wallet goes beyond that. It also lets you store your government-issued IDs, like your passport and driver's license, your health insurance information, and much more. For example, in Alice's case, she has her credit card and her driver's license in her wallet. To digitally store and activate these, her credit card company has issued credentials that are tied to her Okta Identity Wallet. Similarly, the driver's license also has credentials issued against it that back it up and are tied to the Okta Identity Wallet. In fact, her driver's license also has claims that verify she's a US citizen, lives in California, and has passed all KYC regulations as of the timestamp. Alice has backed up her identity wallet to the Okta Identity Cloud with secure end-to-end encryption. She has also designated recovery devices, as well as a chain of recovery custodians. In Alice's case, you can see her recovery devices are her iPhone and MacBook Pro, and her recovery custodians are her husband Bob and personal lawyer Tim. If she loses all her recovery devices, she will need to have both custodians authorize recovery. If you remember, I mentioned before that Alice has started a new job and wanted to update her health insurance information and link it with her health records. With the Okta Identity Wallet, entering or updating identity information is quick and easy. Alice can simply scan in her health insurance card or enter her group ID and membership ID. Once she does so, the wallet automatically asks for the appropriate credentials from her insurance provider based on the information she's entered. Since the identity wallet knows that this is Alice's phone and she is logged into her device using biometrics, it doesn't even need her password to verify her identity. As you can see, Alice is able to quickly and seamlessly add her medical insurance to her Okta Identity Wallet. In addition to her identity cards and information, Alice's Okta Identity Wallet also holds her identity graph. An identity graph defines the relationship Alice has to other people in her life and also defines the types of information she wants to share with them and that they want to share with her. She has 3 different identity graphs. Her family identity graph for her husband, kids, parents, and siblings. Her health identity graph, which lists out all her healthcare providers, including pharmacies. And her FitnessPal's identity graph. Let's dive deeper into her family identity graph as an example and see how it works. As you can see, Alice has added her husband, son, and daughter to her family identity graph. Within her family identity graph, Alice has granted Bob access to her credit cards, health insurance information, and her data from her glucometer. But he does not have access to her Peloton stats or her government ID. Similarly, as you can see, Alice has access to Bob's information. She also has access to all her children's information, including their privacy and consent decisions. She can easily add or revoke access to one or more of these. As you can see, the Okta Identity Wallet holds a nice visual representation of her identity graph and all her relationships. Alice has multiple groups, multiple apps, and multiple devices. And instead of going to each of these apps and each of these devices, her Okta Identity Wallet is her hub from which she controls consent and access across the entire web of her digital life. So now, from one central place, she can share and manage who gets to see her medical history from within her medical app, who gets to see her fitness stats from her Peloton app, and who gets to see her glucometer readings and more. As we learned earlier, Alice has defined her identity graph to share her health information with Bob. So when they receive an alert from her glucometer, the 2 of them decide it's worth checking in with Alice's primary care physician. When Alice goes to make an appointment with her doctor, she realizes that he's moved to a new medical group. When she looks to schedule an appointment through her doctor's new MyChart app, the app recognizes that this will be the first time Alice will be engaging with the group and triggers a notification that Alice needs to complete identity information and permissions. As we just saw, Alice is able to seamlessly do that with just one click from her Okta Identity Wallet. On the other side of the appointment Alice is making is Dr. Adams, Alice's primary care physician. In the past, Dr. Adams has tended to push technology away in favor of analog systems. However, over the past few years, Dr. Adams has become a lot more comfortable with digital technology. He has embraced new capabilities that allow him to monitor his patients remotely, taking advantage of the patient's device data. He has also set up the Okta Identity Wallet, where he has stored his American Medical Association credentials that verify that he is a board-certified doctor. Alice has been Dr. Adams' patient for years, but his practice recently merged with a larger medical group called ATCO Health. The merger means a new IT and security team that believes in a strong zero-trust approach to security. As part of ATCO Health onboarding, Dr. Adams' medical association number and phone number were migrated to ATCO Health's HR system. ATCO Health sends Dr. Adams an activation message with a link to his phone. he uses the link to complete registration for his new employee account. He uses his American Medical Association credentials stored in his personal Okta Identity wallet for his verification. He also links his phone to his employee account. As part of the onboarding flow, Dr. Adams is also asked to consent to the latest employment agreement. Once activation is complete, the Okta Identity wallet asks Dr. Adams to download the enterprise version of the wallet, which has endpoint management controls built into it. He does so, and his personal Okta Identity wallet gets seamlessly exchanged for an enterprise version with all his information transferred over. He also gets asked if he wants to create a work profile on his Okta Identity wallet separate from his personal identity profile. Dr. Adams agrees, and a work profile is created that installs and configures all his work apps, including his email and calendar on his phone. But Dr. Adams works from more than just his phone, so he enrolls and provisions his tablet via his smartphone, registering it as a new endpoint. He downloads the enterprise version of the Okta Identity wallet onto his tablet, logs into his account, and links his tablet to his employee account. Meanwhile, Alice heads over to Dr. Adams' office to speak with him about her glucose levels. Upon arriving, Alice's Okta Identity wallet uses her phone's GPS to recognize that she has entered a doctor's office and proactively asks if she would like to check in and register this practice as an approved medical facility. She uses the biometric capabilities on her device as a credential and checks into her appointment with Dr. Adams. She also confirms her predetermined privacy choices and receives a consent receipt. During the course of the checkup, Dr. Adams recommends to Alice that he share Alice's glucometer and vitals history with a few of his colleagues in the practice who specialize in diabetes so that they can review and provide feedback. Dr. Adams then makes a request from his Atco Health SaaS app to Alice's Okta Identity wallet to add the specialist to her health identity graph. Alice consents to the request, and the diabetes specialist at Atco Health are added to her health identity graph to see her blood sugar and vitals for the past year. After some analysis, Dr. Adams prescribes a new form of insulin for Alice. He sends the prescription to Alice's wallet, and Alice consents to the prescription being sent to her preferred pharmacy, which has previously been set up in her identity wallet. At the pharmacy, the pharmacist is able to log in and receive Alice's prescription. He realizes he requires more in-depth medical data around Alice, specifically her allergy history. So he makes a request to Alice's Okta Identity wallet to access this data. Alice approves the request. The pharmacist recognizes the potential for an allergic reaction within Alice's medical history and routes a request back to Dr. Adams. He suggests another medication that offers similar outcomes without direct conflict for Alice. Dr. Adams approves the request from his Atco Health SaaS app. Almost instantaneously, Alice is notified of the update in her identity wallet, and now she can go pick up her prescription. Alice and Dr. Adams' journeys are not unique, and this example is not just true for healthcare. As we move into the next era of technological innovations, the organizations that win will be the ones that are able to stitch together a seamless end-to-end experience for their customers and their employees, not just across their own tech stack, but across a whole range of partners in their ecosystem. Today, these cross-product, cross-device, and especially cross-organization experiences are hard to achieve because our digital lives are littered with isolated data and disconnected identities. Okta's goal is to provide the identity platform that allows you to stitch all of this together across use cases as disparate as what you saw with Alice and Dr. Adams. So now you can truly build compelling experiences for your customers and employees. All of this sounds futuristic and overwhelming, but actually it's not that far off. Let me share with you some of the key investments we're making across our platform to enable these scenarios. At last Octane, we launched our Devices platform. The Devices platform has a client component. This client allows us to not only understand the security posture of the device, but bind any device to a particular user or set of users in our universal directory. As we evolve the Devices platform service, we will enable it for more and more devices. It is what allows us to bind Alice's Peloton, her glucometer, and her phone to her, and similarly, Dr. Adams' phone and tablet to him. And this same functionality will also allow us to make sure that those devices are secure, even though they are individual, unmanaged devices. Most of you also use our Universal Directory and the Directories platform service that power it pretty extensively. As you know, we built our Universal Directory from the ground up to connect disparate sources of identity information and create a single common directory. This is what will allow Alice to create her identity graphs. If you recall, an identity graph is how Alice shares her data with others in her life, and our Directories platform service is core to enabling this. This year, we are adding extensible profiles to groups, just like we did with users. This will enable customers to model new relationships such as roles, family, teams, projects, and whatever else you can create. Relationships are critical because they will drive authorization and data governance. This will enable you to selectively share your data with different parties for different purposes. So in the future, you can delegate how your spouse's access to data will be different than a service provider's access. You must have also noticed how frictionless it was for Dr. Adams to get onboarded to his new employer. We talked about how our Devices platform service enabled parts of this by allowing Dr. Adams to use his personal devices and tie it to his employee account. Similarly, our policy engine is a key component to ensuring that ATCO Health is able to set the right policies for onboarding Dr. Adams and others in his practice. The final component to making this vision a reality is more investments in our Directories platform. We are evolving our Directory platform service to enable support for isolating users, groups, and devices into their own population that can be managed independently from other populations. This removes the friction of organizations having to create multiple tenants to manage multiple different groups of employees differently. This is what allowed Dr. Adams' employer, ATCO Health, to have a very different and seamless onboarding process for the employees they acquired versus a regular new hire in their organization. Similarly, it is this capability that allows Alice to be able to have multiple identity graphs she manages independently without having multiple identity wallets. We announced earlier this week in our Admin Experience breakout session that we are launching delegated administration capabilities on our platform. We are starting with delegated administration scenarios to enable large organizations to delegate just the right access to the right people. We will evolve this to support more contexts and more nouns so that we can enable fine-grained authorization scenarios for your enterprise, your customers, and your personal data. There are so many touch points involved in the end-to-end transactions, from the application down to the database and machine learning insights. And we're attacking the problem with investments in Okta for infrastructure, Okta for customer identity, and Okta for workforce, as it will take the union of all three of these to move the needle forward in a best-of-breed world. All of this enables Alice to not just allow others in her identity graph to view her data, but enable some specific relationships like Bob or Dr. Adams to act on that data, like Bob providing consent for her treatment or Dr. Adams forwarding her data to other specialists. The customer identity lifecycle is quite different from the employee lifecycle. Customer lifecycle is unknown to known, as opposed to joiner to mover to leaver. These customer identity user journeys are self-managed and not admin managed like they are with HR. Our investments in the Okta Identity Engine and customer identity are laying the foundation for us to allow users to bring their own identity and identity verification with identity proofing from an IDP. And as users bring their own verified identity attributes that have different levels of trust, we will be able to use the Okta Identity Engine to create different levels of assurance for them. If you go back to Dr. Adams and his initial onboarding, it is this capability that allows him to use his American Medical Association number to onboard and set up his devices. And when Alice first sets up her insurance with her new employer, she will use this capability as well. Most user devices and apps have long-lived sessions. Our investment in the Okta Identity Engine and Zero Trust will enable continuous access evaluation for long-lived sessions to ensure a higher level of security. This will allow those always-on, always signed-in devices like Apple Watch, Pelotons, apps on your phone that have very long-lived sessions to have a high level of security. Additionally, user content is not static. We will build on top of our investments in progressive profiling and privacy to enable user-managed consent receipts. These receipts enable the end user to have transparency on how their data is used and provide them with a way to have visibility and control over their identity. Finally, Okta Verify with FastPass is enabling multi-account scenarios on a single device. We will extend this to support enrollment and recovery using your existing devices. Okta Verify will evolve to support new credential types and protocols to enable it to act as your identity wallet. Today, the credentials are tied to your organizational Okta account and not owned and managed by you. Over time, you will have your own personal Okta account that is independent of your email, phone number, or employer, that you can use across all your devices. You can build as many personas as you want and not have these identities be correlatable. As new protocols are standardized for the identity wallet, we will add these to Okta Verify so that it can interact with any wallet-enabled service. The Okta Identity Wallet can also act as a federated authentication provider for legacy sites that have implemented sign-in with Okta. All of these investments we've talked about above will pave the way for us to provide a personal identity store that can act as an identity hub. The Identity Hub will manage your identity graph and the corresponding apps, devices, data, and relationships within it, as well as who has access to what data and when. The Identity Hub will also be where you can manage authorization, trust, recovery, and consent policies across all your devices. The ability to connect the disparate technologies of our lives in a centralized way to dictate how information is shared and with whom, and to more easily navigate complex organizational relationships. These are all ubiquitous challenges identity and Okta can play a big part in solving. What you've seen over the last couple of days through our platform themes and product announcements is how we're advancing towards a longer-term vision. What I've just walked you through is what that vision can mean in tangible, real terms, not just for the technologists and practitioners listening in today, but for everyone. Pushing towards this kind of future depends on all of your support and participation. Our products and platform are driven by the feedback and input we get from all of our customers. So while I get the opportunity to share our identity vision with all of you, I want to make sure we are building our identity vision together. Please continue to play a part in Okta's innovation, engaging in the two-way dialogue we need to enable everyone to safely use any technology. I look forward to another year of identity innovation with Okta and all of you. Thank you.